At Lloydminster and District Co-op, membership matters more. Because being part of a co-op means you're connected to something bigger than yourself. From long-held legacy by those who built our communities, to people you call family, friends, and neighbors. When you're a Lloyd Co-op member, you're an owner in a local business that prides itself on purpose alongside profit. You earn cash back, you help support causes that matter most, and you're building a better way of life for the next generation. Membership matters more.
Local people. Local news and events. Local sports. Local matters. For all things Lloydminster area, this is Live with Kurt Price.
Hey, welcome to Live with Kurt Price. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We've got a great show for you at the new Lloydminster Nissan, now open on Highway 17 South. Right now, get $500 in gas or $500 in groceries with your new purchase. And the new Lloydminster Nissan is indeed open. You'll see some paving going on, but there are two entrances at the new Lloydminster Nissan. You can come in through the front or you can come in through Denham Chrysler. And right now, that's a great deal. Help you out with your first payment, that's for sure, if you don't have to worry about groceries for a while. $500 in gas or $500 in groceries right now at the new Lloydminster Nissan. Yeah, I really want to thank you for joining us today on the show. We're going to be chatting with Reid Wilkins. He's the host of Inside Sports on the 630 CHED radio in network in Edmonton. He's also the Oiler broadcast host for game days. And Reid got his start here in Lloydminster, and producer and sometimes a host of Oilers Now, filling in for Bob Stauffer once in a while, is Brenden Escott. Both started in broadcasting in Lloydminster, and I was glad to have them as co-workers and really glad to be able to call them friends. So it's great to be able to talk to them today. That's what we're going to do. We're going to find out what it's like. Can you imagine how fun it would be to be a broadcaster right now in Edmonton covering the Edmonton Oilers and what's been going on there? So we're going to talk to them about what this Edmonton Oilers journey has been like for them. Superior Water specializes in nothing but water, and with over 22 years in the business, they're proud and confident that their water and their service is superior. For iron filters, water softeners, reverse osmosis distillers, chlorine removal, and H2S odor removal, give Superior Water a call at 780-875-6636 or visit them on their 57th Avenue location right beside Sheepskin Loft, and stay hydrated with pure, clean water. I drink Superior Water because I like the taste. It is Superior Water. Well, it's a busy weekend in Lloydminster and area. Well, let's start off with the area. Lee Park Pro Rodeo kicks off officially tonight, 6 o'clock, where the North Saskatchewan River and the Old Vermilion meet. Rodeo again Saturday and Sunday at 1, a slack on Saturday at 5:30, Sunday at 9:30, and wild pony races all 3 days. There's a pancake breakfast. Ricky Tiki Wanchuk is there. He's like an award-winning entertainer. There's a rodeo dance in Marwayne. There's a pancake breakfast. By the way, there's buses going from Lloydminster and Vermilion to that rodeo dance. 69th annual award-winning Lee Park Pro Rodeo, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, kicking off Friday night at 6 o'clock. Saturday, we go the other way. If we go into Saskatchewan, that's Lashburn Day, and they've got the pancake breakfast, and that's followed by a parade with entertainment afterwards from the Prairie Dogs. They've got a grad barbecue, which is a very important fundraiser for the grad class out in Lashburn. There's a car show. I mentioned a parade that's followed by some entertainment afterwards. There's also a street market, and they've got beer gardens this year as well with entertainment by Maxwell Music. And you can drop into the Senior Center for some pie and some ice cream too, and the museum will be open. Last year, I won the Chase the Ace there. And boy, I blew that money. Had some fun with that, I can tell you that. Also, I'll let you know that here in Lloyd on Saturday is Street Fest with all kinds of fun, including a pancake breakfast at the Olive Tree. That's hosted by Diamond 7 Meats, presented by Diamond 7 Meats. That 11 downtown really gets going. There's all kinds of bouncy castles. There's all kinds of food. There's wagon rides, street performers, art market. There's a street hockey tournament, presented by Factory Sports. So no shortage of things to do in our area this weekend. And of course, Saturday night, you got the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Everybody's starting to get excited about that. Also want to let you know that Thursday, June 13th, the city of Lloydminster is hosting a seniors food for thought breakfast at the Legacy Center. That's held in observance of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and in partnership with the LEAP group here in Lloydminster, which is the Lloydminster Elder Abuse Prevention Group. And Synergy Credit Union is also a presenter. Breakfast is free, but seniors must register by calling 306-825-3301 ahead of time. That's 306-825-3301 ahead of time. And the breakfast is followed by an educational presentation on setting healthy boundaries in relationships. Now, next weekend is a busy one as well. And next week, we've got the details on the Just Cruising Car Club Show and Shine that's happening on the Father's Day weekend on the Saturday. There's also the Bordertown Hog chapter is hosting suppers for their toy run because they've got that coming up in September again, and they're getting better and better all the time at what they do. And Rib Fest is back at the Lloydminster exhibition, and they've got entertainment starting every day at 3 o'clock, and they've got the Oilers game on Saturday night as well. So Glenn Fagnan will join us next week with details on that. Wellings of Lloydminster is now offering 1 or 2 bedroom gorgeous villas for those that are 55 and over. If you haven't taken a tour yet, you should definitely do so. These gorgeous 1-story villas are tax and maintenance free, and they're perfect for those that are looking for more freedom. Freedom to go on a trip, not have to worry about the big house, and you're still independent. So you want to have a pet? You can have a pet. You have room to have company over. You can even get to know your neighbors with a nice centerpiece clubhouse that they're going to start construction on right away. And they've begun working on the groundwork over there as well. They might even have a community garden that they're planning as well. So big picture windows, beautiful appliances, black backsplash, showers, a walk-in, sit-down shower. Just perfect for those 55 and over. Call Darlene at Wellings of Lloydminster and take a tour. Well, up next, it is 2 gentlemen that got their start in broadcasting in Lloydminster. Reid Wilkins, he's the host of Oilers Games Day on 630 CHED and the host of Inside Sports on 630 CHED as well. And Oilers Now producer and fill-in host Brenden Escott. These gentlemen are next, and we're happy to have them here. We're going to find out what it's like to be covering the Oilers in Edmonton during this fantastic Stanley Cup run for the Edmonton Oilers. That's next here on Live with Kurt Price.
I'm Brian Zinchuk of PipelineOnline.ca. I used to be a pipeliner, and I've spent the last 15 years reporting on energy in Saskatchewan. PipelineOnline.ca provides comprehensive coverage of light oil, heavy oil, lithium, helium, power production including coal, wind, solar, geothermal, natural gas, and nuclear. There's a lot happening in Saskatchewan's energy sector, and Pipeline Online is there for all of it. No one else comes even close.
At Diamond 7 Meats, we work with local farm families to provide a high-quality product and a great selection for you. Try our mouth-watering smokies, pulled pork, roast beef, and more, made pure and natural with no additives or fillers. We offer custom processing, and our experienced team works for you to provide a selection of sausage, burgers, and jerkies made to your specifications. Take your grilling to the next level with a Yoder smoker. Complete the grilling experience with Canadian-made, award-winning line of House of Q barbecue sauces. We're locally owned and operated, and we look forward to seeing you today.
It's more than just taxes at L&A CPA. Assurance, accounting, retirement planning, estate planning, business consulting, financial consulting, farm program support, and bookkeeping. But yes, there is always taxes. The team at L&A CPA is committed to helping you achieve your best results and will be there to assist you every step of the way. L&A CPA, with offices in Provost, Vermilion, and Lloydminster.
At Jason Arden & Associates Cooperators, we're proud to be a top-rated local insurance company that offers flexible solutions and expert advice for all your insurance and investment needs. We'll work with you to tailor your insurance specific to your needs, and we offer investment advice that always puts you first. At Cooperators, one of our core values is to give back to the communities that we live in. Thanks to the support of our clients in Lloydminster and area, in 2023, Jason Arden & Associates has donated $40,000 to local nonprofits, charities, students, athletes, and other special events. How does your insurance company support our community?
How can you help support the oil and gas industry and jobs in Western Canada? The answer is closer than you think. Sell your scrap metals to PWM Steel. PWM sells scrap iron to Evraz, located in Regina. Evraz's #1 customer is the energy sector, building pipes and plates for the oil and gas industry. PWM Steel is your locally owned metal recycler and steel service center in the area. Plus, they're a strong supporter of the community. PWM Steel, your top steel supplier for Alberta and Saskatchewan for 40 years.
Well, pleased to welcome you back. I want to tell you about BioClean Disaster Services. BioClean Disaster Services is Lloydminster's local disaster company. They're not only the local restoration company, but they're also the largest restoration company in Lloydminster for fire, flood, or disaster. They will help you get your life back. So they're going to take care of your property. They're going to take care of your belongings. But more than anything, they're going to take care of you and your family. That's BioClean Disaster Services at 1-833-246-8326. Well, happy to be joined by two gentlemen that I worked with. I worked with Reid a lot longer than I worked with Brenden. How Brenden moved up the ladder so fast, I don't know, Reid, but but I worked with Reid. I started here at CKSA in 2000, and Reid was already there. Reid was working there. And when did you leave CKSA, Reid?
I left in May of 2007, and I think I just started a few months before you, because I started in, I think, March of 2000, and I think you joined later that year. Yeah.
I first met you at NATE. I didn't see a lot of you at NATE, but I met you at NATE a little bit. And then I remember meeting you at Ezzy's in Lloydminster, downstairs in the bar. I was the day before I started, and this is how close-knit CKSA used to be. They had a get-together to welcome me to the team. And Reid Wilkins was there. He was actually the first guy.
I don't even remember that. Well, congratulations, Kurt. Welcome aboard.
But I thought we worked together a lot longer. I can't believe you left in 2007. It seemed like you were there a lot longer. But great to see you, Reid. And Brenden, when did you were there for what, 6 months? You were there for a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I describe it. The cup of coffee is the TV internship that I did when I was at NATE as well. But that would have been May of 2018 through, I guess, July. And then I caught on with the Sherwood Park Crusaders. So that kind of gave me an avenue to leap right back into Edmonton and get into the sports scene out of the gates. So want to know how I sort of ascended things so quickly? I guess you just say yes to everything, and eventually there's a lot of jobs that need to be cleaned up.
Well, it's great to see you both, and we really appreciate you guys doing this. Been listening, and it's been exciting for the city of Edmonton. And if you think that Connor McDavid has a hard time getting alcohol at the liquor store, you should see what happens when Brenden, Escott, and Reid Wilkins go to the liquor store. How tough it is for them to get out of there.
I tell you what, when the playoffs are over, Reid Wilkins and Brenden Escott are going to be visiting the liquor store or sub-establishment together. And spending a McDavid amount of money there.
Well, okay, let's start there. How would you celebrate? If they win the cup, how would you celebrate?
Tearfully. I don't know. It's tough, right? I mean, it's really something that, to me, we haven't experienced this because social media wasn't a thing back in 1993, the last time this was done, right? I literally wasn't a thing. I wasn't born until the next year. So I've never been alive for a Stanley Cup championship. I genuinely don't know what to expect. But based on the reaction that we saw when they won Game 6, and that party went on long into the night on a Sunday, I'm thinking the town gets shut down the following day at least.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Kurt, that's an interesting question, but as you know, the experience for, Brenden and I and Bob and Jack and Mooner and people who cover the team, I mean, if they won the cup, I mean, I'm on air for probably 3 hours after the game, if not longer. I mean, we were on for almost 2 hours after the West final. So, we're probably going past midnight with overtime open line and all that kind of stuff. Then probably, already this week, I've been asked to be on other shows and podcasts at a rate higher than ever. And then, if they won, then there'd be a parade and other celebrations to cover. So, that's what I always say. Like, I want the Oilers to win. I do. I want the Elks to win. I want other local athletes that I cover to win. Like, it's good for the city. It's good positivity. But it's different. It is different than being a fan, for sure. I honestly, if they won, I mean, I would probably go to my parents' house after I was off air that night. Just, just to and maybe rewatch the end of the game with them or something like that. Probably would do that. And then, yeah, once we got through all the off-season stuff, and then maybe even the draft, then yes, I would like to share a pint with Mr. Escott on a patio somewhere and just decompress.
I wonder how many people from Lloydminster would actually drive to Edmonton for the parade, because it's been crazy here. I can't imagine what it's been like there, but there's been, I emceed the Lobster Fest here, and to make sure that people came and had a great time, they live streamed the game. They've had watch parties at the Lloydminster exhibition. There's a golf tournament here next Thursday, and of course there's a game that night. So what they're going to do is they're going to live stream the game at the golf tournament banquet, and they're actually selling tickets extra to that. Like it actually does affect the way people do things, because nobody wants to miss anything. Nobody, like, when you get this deep, it's not like, I did the Health Foundation Gala. They were still in the LA series. We were giving updates and putting the score on the big screen. So I can't imagine what it's like for Edmonton. You must, when you guys go to the grocery store, you must get stopped and have a hard time getting through without talking Oilers right now.
I think you're overestimating the level of recognition, for sure.
I mean, that's in a TV sense, sure. In a radio sense, maybe not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the dentist the other morning, and obviously, my hygienist, who's not really a sports fan, was sort of, I think, trying to act like she knew a lot, because I do think sometimes, I don't know if you get this, Brenden, but I feel like the non-sports fans, people in my life, especially when there's something big going on, they almost feel like, I better act like I know. And I'm always like, it's okay if you don't watch. But then my dentist came in, who's around my age, and I've known him for a long time, because his dad was my dentist, and then he took over the business. But he came in, and first, like, your mouth is open and they're feeling around in there, and he's telling me about watching Game 6 at a pub, and then, do you remember that play when? Oh yeah, and did you see? I'm like, yeah, I did see. I was paying attention, but no, in terms of stuff in public, I don't know about you, Brenden. I'm fine. I can pretty much go out unimpeded.
Well, let me say this, because there's that viral video of Darnell Nurse, and Reid, you're standing right beside him. So my brother texts me and he says, you got to watch this clip. I'm pretty sure Reid is trying not to laugh at the end. Like, you would know him. Like, were you actually trying not to laugh in that situation because you asked the last question and then Darnell walks away from you? Like, were you actually trying not to laugh? And how much recognition did you get from that going crazy?
I was trying not to smirk. I don't think I would have laughed, but early on, I mean, I think I said this to Brenden, that people who know me would probably be like, oh yeah, Reid's probably thinking of some sarcastic things, or is like, what's going on? Which is, because Rashog asked, and I was kind of like, okay, it's going to be like this. And then when that happens, the one thing though I did actively think was, okay, I have to ask a question, because it's like I'm there every day, like Rashog and Speck and some of those guys. So I'm like, okay, if Darnell's gonna shut everybody down like this, then I gotta. It's almost like joining a scrum to protect your teammates a little bit. I'm like, okay, I gotta ask a question too, to either A, see if I can get something out of him, or then B, just be like, okay, he slapped me down too. But I was kind of like, okay, here we go. He's gonna be like this today. Yeah.
So
the timing of that was really alarming to me. And then Reid and I talked about it, and Reid had a really good point. He said, you can do that, but you better step up and have the best game of your life in the aftermath. And that is literally exactly what Darnell did. And really, he hasn't looked back since that point. So I can't say that I'm disappointed. I would have handled it differently personally if I was him, but he's risen to the occasion.
Reid, when you went to 630 CHED, I wanted to ask you this, because you didn't go directly from Lloydminster. You went to, was it A Channel at the time? City TV?
I was at 630. I was at Chorus when iNews 880 opened, so I was a news reader, and then shortly after that, I went to A Channel for almost 2 years, and then I went back to CHED.
Who helped you get to where you are now as the host of the Oilers pregame and the postgame show and everything in between, and doing Inside Sports. Who helped get you to that point?
Well, a lot of people. I mean, one is Brenden knows who's I'm gonna say first, and that's Sid Smith, who was our boss for a long time, who was an outstanding leader and mentor, and who had done the job that I'm doing. Like, he was the first host of Inside Sports when it launched, I think in '96 or '97. He used to do Oilers pre and post. So he was a big one for me, just kind of believing in me and giving me that shot when Dan Tenser went to a different show on 630 CHED, and then just his continued support along the way. But I mean, there's a lot of I think in any career, there's a lot of people. I mean, certainly, Stoff wanted me to produce his show. That's how I got my foot back in the door of doing sports. Again, that was a relationship that started in the late '90s, me volunteering on CJSR. I mean, I'd put Bucky on that list, Greg Buchanan. So he hired me in Lloyd. I worked with him for several years. I still think of some of the grammar lessons Michael Higgins gave me about good writing and good presentation. Leslie Primo at CHED. I mean, I could go on, and then you learn from, people around you, Morley Scott, Dave Campbell, Jack and Mooner. Like, I take in things from all those people, and then even working with Brenden, like, even though I have more experience, like, I see things that Brenden does well and try to process, like, okay, why is he good at that? What is he doing? How do you incorporate that into your personality or your presentation? So, but I guess in terms of my career path, certainly Sid Smith would be probably at the top of the list.
How about for you, Brenden? Who really got you to where you're at, or helped at least?
Yeah, well, I'll start in Edmonton, certainly, because I did a degree in Kamloops, and the opportunities there just certainly nothing like what was going to be in Edmonton. So once I got to school here, did Nate's program, and had just sort of been fooling around to lunchtime with Tony Brar. He and I were in the same class, and we're filming these little vignettes about the Oilers, and it got picked up on by Zach Davis, who was not only at CHED at one point, but is the street team lead for Bell Media. So he was the one who was like, hey, you guys, you've got something here. Like, come on to the street team, get your foot in the door, start moving and shaking a little bit in Edmonton, and we'll see where it goes. And so I did that. Went to Lloydminster in the aftermath of it, and then Zach messaged me one day when Brendan Ulrich had left the position that I'm in now. So this would have been coming up on 6 years ago. And hey, we've got this opportunity. I've seen what you've done with Tony at school. You've worked for me. I think that this is a really good opportunity for you. So that's, if you want to thread the needle to exactly where I got into CHED, it's a big thanks to Zach Davis, who I still see posting in the alumni group, I guess, of Nate. Hey, join the street team. This is how you start. And I cannot echo that loudly enough. I would also give a nod to Bucky. He had me working the sports programs when I was doing the interning in Lloydminster. And frankly, Stacey Colbert, who's out there giving me any opportunity I needed to with camera time, with radio delivery, any of that stuff. So yeah, as it was a quick time, but a lot of ties to Lloyd that really helped me in a professional sense. And we're sitting here on the podcast with the man that I've grown with the most since I started in the industry, because Reid to me is an incredible leader. He's an incredible broadcaster. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here in the same call. I think that you are an incredible demonstrator of who to be as a professional and a broadcaster on air. So there's been a lot of learning and from a lot of people as well.
Well, I'll second that.
Thanks,
because
buddy.
I'll second that because I always thought Reid Wilkins was maybe the best broadcaster that I ever worked with. And I know Reid, you were like, you got a memory and a trivia. Like, I don't know how you remember things so well, your trivia and stuff, but I always really admired that. And that really allows you to roll with things when something happens on air that maybe doesn't go exactly how it's supposed to go. It really helps you roll with that. I remember one time you did an interview. There's 2 interviews that you have done since you've been at CHED that I really remember. One is John Garrett, and I could listen to you and John Garrett all the time, because when you asked John Garrett to tell the story about the All-Star game and Gretzky stealing the car from him, that was phenomenal. You had an interview with Phil Esposito where I was just glued to it. Like, I was like, Like I wish, like, I don't know if you still have that interview, Reid, but that should be like broadcasters should actually listen to that interview to kind of learn how to interview people. But has there been anybody that you've been intimidated by? Anybody that you've interviewed where you've thought, when I started in this business, I never could have imagined this is where I got, I'd be standing next to this person or talking to this person on the phone even.
Okay, first of all, how much profanity is allowed in this forum?
Well, we are on Rogers TV, so not a whole lot.
Okay, so I won't say the word then. A quick story about that Esposito interview. I pre-taped it, which I have to do fairly regularly for my show being in the evening. But generally, you don't advertise that it's pre-taped. I mean, people might pick up on it sometimes. But Esposito had to tape in the afternoon. So he said the S word 3 times. But you want to air it like it's live, but you don't want a lot of swearing. So speaking of Sid Smith, I said, Sid, he said like this word 3 times. Like I said, like it's 3 times. Like one you would just leave. And Sid goes, leave the first one, bleep out the other 2. I'm like, okay. So that's what we did. That's interesting about being intimidated by somebody or feeling a little uneasy in an interview.
I'll tell you, like when I'm around other reporters, like when I'm around you guys or other reporters, I get more intimidated around other reporters than I would say around interviewing somebody like Ray Bork or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I like the last time this is absolutely true. I'm not just saying this. The last time I felt nervous doing an interview, it wasn't that long ago. It was Ben Stelter. Like I actually remember feeling jumpy that I was going to get a little 1-minute piece of tape with Ben Stelter, his parents are there, his whole story. I mean, we all knew that unfortunately, he probably was going to leave us at some point. And I remember really feeling nervous for that. I think the first time I interviewed Bettman, I probably felt a little intimidated, and I think I've interviewed him 4 times, but now it's just like, okay, whatever. Like you almost have to be in the mindset that you're going to spar with him a little bit if needed. I mean, certainly when they did that big reunion for the 85 team a few years ago, like Bob and I were doing something and Gretzky just walked over and put a headset on. That was a little like, oh geez, like he just came to do it. So I remember feeling a little like, and I had interviewed Gretzky before, but in that circumstance, it was like, oh geez, like I better be on. He just came over and is going to talk to us kind of unprompted. But there probably are people, Kurt, but I don't think to me it would be someone's level of fame that would maybe intimidate me or throw me off. It might be if it was someone important that I hadn't talked to before and I maybe knew wasn't going to want to savor it. Like I would imagine if I ever interviewed Daryl Cates, which I sort of did once, it would probably be intimidating just because he doesn't say a lot generally when he talks, right? So it wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's the owner of the Oilers. It would be more like, well, this is an important person who usually doesn't give you very much. So how quickly am I going to have to adjust and try to ask a question that might actually bring something out of him?
Oh man, I understand that because it was always that way around my father-in-law. He never talked, and so I couldn't stop babbling. Brenden, how about you? Is there anybody that you've interviewed where you were like, okay, I've made it now, and why is that a member of the Vancouver Canucks?
Why have I made it now? My goodness. I mean, for me growing up listening to Ron MacLean, I always had such an admiration for his delivery and his storytelling ability and that sort of thing. So now being able to interview him several times over as a recurring guest on our program, that's sort of living out a childhood dream in that sense. Ryan Burke would be another one. I grew up in Kamloops, as I sort of alluded to. So watching his presence in the Western Conference for a long, long time as I was a kid, that's an intimidating SOB. And let me tell you, the first time that I interviewed him, that was one of the first things I said. Like, Brian, this is incredibly intimidating right now, but I love the opportunity. And I felt like I could say that because I'm pretty young as far as broadcasters go. So, like, of course, interviewing the 65-year-old legend of the game or whatever is going to come with some of that. But being the sideline reporter in whether it be football or doing a walk-off with someone like Evander Kane and just all the intensity that individual carries. There is sort of a powder keg feel sometimes just being in that environment. And I really like what you said about being intimidated at times by just the environment of having all these reporters around, because of course I have such a great deal of respect for people like Rashog and Reid and the like. And I don't want to sound like an idiot in what I'm trying to ask. So it's, we're incrementally, I guess, getting to a point where I feel like I belong more and more.
You guys, you're around the players all the time. Is there a player on this team, maybe he's a superstar, maybe he's unheralded, that you look at and you go, I would love to see the Oilers win for that guy. Like, I really want to see that guy's reaction to winning the Stanley Cup. Like when you interview guys, you get to know there's guys that are just doing an interview because they have to do an interview, and then there's guys that are like, hey, they kind of spar with you a little bit too, and you develop a relationship. Would there be anybody on the Oilers for you guys that you would say that's the guy I really want to see his reaction to winning the Stanley Cup? He's earned it.
I'll jump in. It's got to be, right? It has to be, because not only for the tenure, but the way that he handles himself. I mean, the opportunity I had a couple of years ago I was auditioning for the role that Paige Martin ended up getting. And with that, I got to do some field level reporting. I wasn't even supposed to interview Nuge, and he's skating around in warm-ups, comes around, asks, hey, do you need me? So just the class that guy carries himself with, and all that he's endured with this organization, he will be the second guy to touch that Stanley Cup if they raise it. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him win it just because of the longevity. That'd be the one guy that came to mind. And it's funny, I saw on Sportsnet today, they did this series preview, and they were like, who touches the cup first after the captain? And they put Draisaitl. I'm like, no way. It's
not
Nugent
a chance.
Hopkins. It's Nugent Hopkins. Like, if Leon would push Nugent Hopkins forward to get it. Like, I don't think there's. I almost wonder if Connor doesn't even lift it, just passes it to Nuge if they get it. I mean, I think they're probably told they got to lift it for a photo and stuff, but yeah, it'd be cool to see Nuge win, and people would lose their minds. Like, that would have the fan base crying, if nothing else, I think.
Ekholm being as nice a guy and as grizzled as he is throughout this league, I'd really like to see him lifted after getting back there. And frankly, I'd say the same about Corey Perry. Just nice that they could have a nice wrap up of their NHL story here in Edmonton. I love that idea.
For me, it'd be Stuart Skinner. I just, Stuart has been to Lloyd at least once, and he's a guy that you actually felt like the person could have a conversation with, to be honest. And so I look at guys like that, and then being pulled, giving up the net for 2 games to Kelvin Pickard, for me, that would be unbelievable. Is there okay, the three of us here. So Brenden, you grew up in Vancouver or
Kamloops, close enough. But
you cheered for the Canucks, right?
Yeah.
Reid, you and I and Chris Knobloch, we're Montreal Canadian fans. We kind of grew up Montreal Canadiens fans. How much do you guys like? Would you say now, Reid, hey, I still like the Montreal Canadiens, but I'm a bigger Edmonton Oilers fan? Or are you a fan of the Canadiens and an Edmonton Oilers reporter? I've wondered that.
I'd say I have no feelings of support for the Montreal Canadiens at all anymore.
Really? It's completely gone.
Yeah, pretty much. Like pretty much completely gone. The memories are nice of 86 and 93. And I did like the Oilers at that time too. So it was pretty nice watching hockey with my dad from like 83 to 93, because one team was in the finals almost every year, at least the semifinals every year. But no, I would say, and like even when people say to me, are you an Oilers fan? Like I said earlier, no, I'm not. I want them to win, but I don't call myself a fan because of I'm not like a fan. Like I would say I'm still an Elks fan because I have seasons tickets and I'm a little bit more detached from the broadcasts and the coverage and stuff. But I'd say I don't really feel anything for the Canadians. And like I said, I would like to see the Oilers win just for a city perspective. And it's, let's face it, it's good for the station and stuff to have the games and all the coverage.
Well, when the Canadians play there, I always think of you. And, because I know growing up you were a Habs fan, so it must be kind of nice when, like, have you ever got a chance to go to Montreal or Like,
I did. In 2010, I went to 2 games. Yep. I saw them play the Oilers when the Oilers weren't very good, and I saw them play Boston on a Saturday night. Yeah. And I was into that for sure. Yeah.
were you covering that? Like, were you a reporter?
No,
then?
it was a holiday. It was a
Oh,
holiday.
you just
I
went on a
wasn't
holiday.
I wasn't even doing this job. No.
Right. Because I found it really interesting when Chris Knobloch was like, "Yeah, there's a Canadians jersey. There's a few Canadians jerseys hanging in the cupboard at home." Brenden, how about you? Like, yeah, like you've said on the air, like, and people have called you a Canucks supporter, actually.
I don't really understand where that comes from other than my roots because like Reid, listen, of course I want to see a Canadian market win just for what that would be like. The most painful one to watch win would be Toronto, and that's not even close. But if it came north of the border, north of the 49th parallel, I'm happy wherever it lands. To me, I mean, if there's sort of a secondary team that I affiliate with, yeah, it would be the Vancouver Canucks because of having those same memories that you guys do with your parents and watching the Canadians. I mean, for me, that was watching the West Coast Express and then eventually watching the Sedins and then watching the Sedins get punked by Boston in 2011 and how traumatizing that was. But let's not kid ourselves. I mean, there's a certain nostalgia element for me, for Vancouver as well. Now, there was a lot of nastiness in that series, which made it a lot of fun. And there was a lot of people who, were not too pleased. I'm not a fence sitter. I don't know how to explain it. Reid said it pretty well. It's tough to be a fan and a journalist at the same time, but you are definitely partial to the guys that you're in the locker room with and the guys that you've been interviewing for the last 5+ years. So I would love to see Oilers first and foremost.
Well, Reid, and you touched on something, Reid, where like you and I growing up, there was a Canadian team in the final all the time. Like
Yep.
this, like that was, and I guess a person didn't realize how precious that was. Like in '89, when you have 2 Canadian teams in the Stanley Cup Final, or '86 when you have 2 Canadian teams in the Stanley Cup Final, and even '94 when the Canucks go to the Stanley Cup Final. That's nothing, that's nothing new for us. So does it have a meaning for you two that the Stanley Cup would come to Canada? Because while I'm an Oiler fan secondary to the Montreal Canadiens, I think I would cheer for any Canadian market just because it's been so long. Like, if the Canucks had won the Stanley Cup last year and then we're going this year against an American team, I wouldn't care. But being that it's been 31 years, like I can't stop. I would even cheer for Toronto because my dad's a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and there's so much joy in having your team win. Like there's the off season is so much better. Does it mean something to you guys?
For me, absolutely it does. Again, it's an experience that I have not, even at a young stage of my life. I don't know what that's like. I would love to see the jubilation that, a basketball crazy market gets to experience when they win. The closest thing I've ever experienced was when Toronto won the NBA championship for me. I wasn't alive for the Blue Jays run either.
Good
so
point.
I am desperate to see what it looks like and it's our sport. Like, let's not, you can talk about how many Canadian players play on the US teams, whatever. Fandom, as we're learning basically through Pat McAfee, at least that's where, a lot of, I would assume American people in my age range are learning about the playoffs right now, and viewership is way up. You're starting to see exactly what a passionate Canadian hockey fan base is. And now that's getting broadcast south of the border. So I don't like necessarily the entitlement that came with Vegas's fans after they won one of them. So you can put some more work in.
I'm so with you on that. How about you, Reid?
I would say it wouldn't be a huge deal for me. I mean, if a team other than the Oilers won it, I mean, I guess I would recognize it would have a lot of meaning to that fan base, and it would mean that we wouldn't be talking about the drought anymore for a Canadian team. But I mean, beyond the end of the storyline, I wouldn't really. I don't know if I would care that much. I really wouldn't.
You're so cold, Reid. You're so.
I am. Well, I don't know. Like, so that team would win it, and then okay, they're the champion that year. On we go to the next year. I kind of feel that way. I mean, would I want to see the Leafs win it? Probably not.
I want to see them win it. I just don't want to hear their fans for the next 50 years thereafter. That's what it would be about to me. To watch those players go through that and bring a cup to Canada, I'm cool with that. How the fan base handles it from there on out is where my emotions will kind of get pulled one way or the other.
Well,
can you win with class? Can you?
Can you lose with class? Ask some Vancouver Canuck fans, because Reid, I've quite enjoyed, you got a few guys there that call into your show that, somehow squeak through and then just be jerks on the air. Listen, I know you guys got to run, and I really appreciate you giving us some time, but obviously you're both picking the Oilers in this final, or would you even want to even attempt to pick the Oilers?
Oilers in 5.
Wow. Reid, this kind of reminds me like 86 when Calgary found a way to beat Edmonton, and we all remember the Steve Smith goal, and then they played Montreal. Nobody gave Montreal a chance. Everybody was like, Calgary's going to win. There was nobody picking Montreal. It's actually when I became a Montreal fan, because nobody was picking them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so Oilers in 5. Brenden, who are you taking?
I'm with Reid in my confidence level. I'm going to give Florida another game, though. They are a hell of a roster, but it's a roster that's been piecemealed together over the last couple of years. The Oilers have been fighting for this very moment right now for the last just about 10. I don't think they're going to squander this. I don't, regardless of how good Florida is on paper. So give me Oilers in 6.
Well, as Frank Saravelli said on Oilers Now the other night, he just doesn't see Connor McDavid losing after getting this close. So, guys, thank you so much. And if the Oilers win, I hope we can find a time to talk about, because can you imagine the stories you're going to get through this series? Like I think to be you guys right now is exactly what sports, like when you go to school to be a sports reporter or a play-by-play guy or anything in Canada, this is what you're looking for, what you guys get to experience. So I hope you really do enjoy it, and we'll be listening.
Thanks for having us, Kurt.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kurt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.